Continuing election coverage now, voters in San Francisco overwhelmingly voted against Proposition C. Now, that measure would have overturned a citywide ban on the sale of e-cigarettes starting next year. Even though tobacco groups spent millions of dollars supporting this measure, voters overwhelmingly rejected it, 80 to 20%. For more on what this means going forward, I'm joined now by Matt Dorsey, Communications Director for San Francisco Kids versus Big Tobacco, as well as the No on Prop C campaign. Matt, thank you so much for being here. Got to be happy with last night's outcome.
I'm very happy, and I couldn't be more grateful to the people of San Francisco. You know, JUUL Labs spent $15 million. It was a record-setting amount for a corporate-sponsored campaign, and the measure was really designed to be confusing. And even when I voted yesterday, I looked at the ballot question and my heart sank, and I thought to myself, how many people are going to be thinking that they're voting against JUUL and voting yes? But the great news was San Franciscans weren't fooled. It was a resounding victory beyond my wildest expectations. And when you consider the amount of money that they spent, it was $15 million to get, you know, by my calculation, it's going to end up being about $450 per vote, which makes it the most expensive political fiasco in San Francisco history. So
yeah, it certainly was a lot of money involved and a lot at stake for companies like JUUL. Tell me what happens now. This ban will now move forward starting in the new year.
Yeah, so the ban takes effect in January, but San Francisco's ban is not an outright or permanent ban. It's a conditional moratorium that says e-cigarettes have to get FDA authorization and then they can be sold in San Francisco stores. There is federal litigation that set a deadline for that. It's next May 2020. So JUUL and other e-cigarette brands are going to need to get their application together and make a showing to the U.S. Food and Drug Administration that there is a public health benefit on what the FDA calls a continuum of risk, for them to be, you know, have a place in the market.
Tell me why this ban is needed, why you believe this ban is needed until this FDA approval is granted.
Well, it was interesting because over the course of the campaign, you know, San Francisco started in a place where the city was being attacked as a nanny state kind of overreach. This was an ill-advised ban. But over the course of just a few months, you know, we saw a lot of questions raised about hospitalizations, lung injuries, even people losing their lives about mysterious illnesses related to vaping. In a single week, China, India, and Walmart all acted to ban e-cigarettes. And when you really think about that in context, Walmart is the nation's largest gun retailer. When Walmart decides e-cigarettes are too dangerous to sell, we're having a very different conversation about the safety of e-cigarettes. So all of a sudden, San Francisco's law is pretty moderate now.
Well, what about those who say this comes down to personal choice? And just like cigarettes, if I want to vape or I want to use an e-cigarette, that's my prerogative.
It's a good point, but I think it's not an excuse to delay getting FDA authorization. JUUL has had 3 years to go to the FDA with its pre-market tobacco application. They've dragged their feet, and I think it was at their peril. Now the science is coming out. With even traditional cigarettes, you wouldn't expect to see hundreds of people being hospitalized with lung ailments. Normally, these kinds of things take decades to present. So there's a lot of questions, and it raises the public health imperative for the FDA to take a look at these. San Francisco's law was less about taking this off the market than creating market pressure for e-cigarette brands like JUUL to go get your authorization.
And that is ultimately what we're going to see happen. Matt Dorsey, thanks so much for coming on. Appreciate it. Again, that ban in San Francisco is set to take effect next year.